Hello and welcome to the first ever edition of the Sober Stew podcast. My name's Stuart and I'm a recovered addict. Initially, I want to say thank you to all the guys that have started following my Instagram page. It was only launched a few weeks back, and the interaction that we've had with each other, I think, has been fantastic. I can tell you honestly, it's enhanced my sobriety. It's beautiful to talk to people who are in recovery, who have had that psychic change, if you like, and are growing on a daily basis, because I find that beautiful. There were many years of my life where I didn't grow, um, at all. So, what's the purpose of this self-interview? To let you guys know a little bit more about me, because you know some snippets. I posted some videos on Instagram, and as I say, there's been some good interaction, but you don't know my life story. And I thought, before we get guests on, which I've got a long list, to be fair, I've got a lot of people that want to come on, and I feel blessed about that as well, to share their stories with the world, and that's powerful, man. But before I do that, I want to let you guys know a little bit more about me. Not a great big drinker-log, drug-a-log, whatever you want to call it, but there is some nuts and bolts that you need to know, and there's also my recovery that you need to know. And it ain't all been plain sailing, trust me. And there's been periods and things that I've done in my recovery that I'm not proud of, and I'll share that with you as well. So where did it begin? Well, do you know what? I had a realisation literally last week. I thought my first drink when I was of alcohol when I was 14, smoking weed around the same time, and then daily drinking at 16. But I've realised, looking back, my first drink was gripe water. Now, how many of you guys know gripe water? Leave some comments here, please, because I never knew it was an ointment, or not an ointment, sorry, a medicine for children that was laced with alcohol. And I specifically remember the taste, even now. I'm 47 years old. And my mum giving it to me on a spoon. And I used to want another spoon, and another spoon, and another spoon. I don't know how old I was. 3, 4? What, a toddler. But I loved it. Genuinely loved it. I don't know if it was the sugar or whether it was the alcohol content in it, but I fucking loved it. Do you know what I mean? And that is exactly how I felt at 14 years old when I had my first proper drink. As a kid, and I've heard this a lot, did I feel different? Yes. Was I anxious? Yes. Well, I have a lot of fear running through my body daily. I felt that I was adopted into a family, because they couldn't be, they're not like me. It's not my family, but they were, and they are. So my perception as a child was warped. It weren't normal. I don't know what normal is, but it weren't normal. My sister didn't feel like that, for example, and she's in the same family as me. Now, that's how I felt as a young child growing up. And then when I get to the age of 11, and I'm going to a big school, and I'm already full of anxiety, and all of a sudden there's these kids from all these other schools, I genuinely, genuinely, genuinely hated every single day for the next 5 years. Or maybe longer, I don't know. But when I say hate, I mean that passionately. It was a dreaded fear. It was there when I left school, knowing that I've got to go back again tomorrow. And then when tomorrow come, oh man, I can't tell you. It was filth. It was a horrible, horrible existence. And, I didn't know no different. It's fucking sad, isn't it? Didn't know no different. That's just how I thought life was. And then when I get to the age of 14, I have a drink with a couple of friends of mine. Thunderbird wine, I believe it was called. It was disgusting. It was very strong, very powerful, and I got paralytic drunk on it. My friends didn't. We did it again pretty soon after. And there was something in my brain before we went out that day that decided to steal my dad's whiskey, put it in my flask on my bike. So we get to the park or wherever it was we was going, and we got the Thunderbird wine. We've got our cigarettes. A couple of them might have had some hash, weed, and and then I get out the whiskey as well. And that was listen. I ain't going to go through every situation. That was a story of my life. Drunk to excess, didn't know when to stop, caused absolute murders, and become a burden on everyone who was around me, including my best friend. God rest his soul, was no longer with us. Who had to get me home that night to my parents. And no forward thinking about anything. Did I worry about what would happen? No. Should I worry? Yes. My old man weren't happy. Do you know what I mean? But that was as I say, that was the story of my life. Nothing changed. The consequences were never a fault. What was a fault was I'm getting out of my box. I'm getting out of my nut, and I don't really give a fuck. I don't even know if I didn't give a fuck. I just didn't think. And it's not a nice way to live either. But what happened at 14, 15, around that age, when I had that drink, was that I didn't feel like that young boy again. The one who didn't fit in, the one who was full of anger and fear and anxiety and this low self-worth. When I had a drink, I didn't feel like it. I felt the opposite. I felt big, I felt powerful, I felt confident. It's all false, obviously, but that's how I felt. And it quietened my head down because I had a busy head, very busy head. So to me, it's my friend, and it worked. Of course it worked, because it allowed me to become the person that I wanted to become, looking up as a hero who's my brother, which I found out later on in life was an alcoholic as well, ironically. But he was involved in, criminality, shall we say, and I wanted to be like him. 100% wanted to be like him. That was the only hero I looked at. I wanted to make easy money. I didn't want to work. I wanted to get out of my box, and that was it. I didn't have any other desires in life. And from the ages of, I think it was 17 to 20, I'm using Class A drugs. I'm using amphetamines. I'm using cocaine. I'm drinking daily. I was in a relationship, a solid relationship that I believed in my deluded mind, and we had a child. I was over the I can't even tell you how over the moon I was to have this child, my son, and I just couldn't cope. Every single day when I got up, the only thing that was on my mind was drinking. That was it. I had this little child there, present, and I couldn't be there for him. I just couldn't be there for him, and that saddens me even to this day now. That was 27 years ago. Me and my son have got a good relationship now, but at the time, obviously, his mum couldn't cope with the situation that she was in either. I was an alcoholic, an active alcoholic, and I was a nuisance, and I didn't bring anything to the table other than drama. So when that relationship ended, and I blamed her and everyone else, I was in a pickle then. I was hospitalised a couple of times, broken bones. I probably had 1, 2, 3 meals a week. I was living in a squat, really. It was disgusting, with my dog, and I was drinking the cider that's never seen an apple. Do you know the one where you can get gallons of it for like pittance? Drinking and drinking and drinking, and that would be my life, on and off, on and off. I'd get a little reprieve. I'm still drinking, but not down in the gutter. And then a couple of years later, I'm heavy on the cocaine. And that, I believe, was the catalyst to bring my rock bottom quicker than what it would have done. Because the paranoia that brought to me, I can't even explain it. I've learnt a little bit in life, in recovery, and I've learnt about drug-induced psychosis. And I look back at my life and I think, maybe I did. I don't know. It's irrelevant now, but I used to walk around with knives strapped to my body, to my legs, to my ankles, to my my stomach. I used to get to the bars in the pub. I'd sit there with my back against the wall so I could see everybody who had come in. The paranoia, the people I drunk with and worked with criminality. I thought they was out to kill me, every single one of them. It'd take me half an hour to leave my room, because by this point I'm talking right at the end of my using now. It took me half an hour to leave the room. I'd be looking underneath the door like this, yeah, thinking there's people there. They're not there. I'd leave. I'd get down to the bar. I'd get a drink. I can't order a pint no more because I can't pick it up in the morning. My hand is shaking. I can't pick it up. Anyone orders me a pint, I'm angry because I can't do it. I feel embarrassed. So I order a bottle of lager and I have to pick it up and try to get that in my mouth. If the pint's there, I have to put my mouth down like this and sip it from the bar. I'm 28 years old. I weigh just over 8 stone. I'm using cocaine daily, and I have been for a long time. I hadn't washed my body from my neck down for 9 months. I'd slept in the same bed sheets for 9 months. My clothes hadn't been washed for 9 months. My feet were rotting. I used to peel the same pair of socks off every single night and flesh would come off my feet. And in that last 3 months of my using, I used to lay in my bed, my filthy bed, in my room with pint glass after pint glass all the way around the room, full up with urine, with mould growing on the top, because I'm too paranoid to go to the toilet, which is outside the door. And I'd lay there in that bed with a gun in my mouth, crying like a baby, for God to give me the strength to pull the trigger. And you know what? He'd give me the strength to ask for help. And on the 24th of November 2004, I did just that. And I ended up in my first Alcoholics Anonymous meeting. And I haven't took a drink or a line or a pill in nearly 19 years. And I feel emotional saying it. You know, I'm so blessed that I've got this sobriety. And I can't even tell you, you know, my life from that day, the 24th of November 2004 till today, which is actually just started November now, haven't we? Nearly 19 years, is a complete difference. The biggest thing for me is my mind. That didn't change when I put down alcohol and cocaine. That didn't change. That took a lot of work. I was shown a process. I was shown the 12-step recovery program in Alcoholics Anonymous, and also in Cocaine Anonymous also, but predominantly I was in Alcoholics Anonymous. And the 12-step recovery program changed the way I processed and thought about every fucking thing in life. And was it easy? No. It was painful. There was lots of aspects of the 12 steps that were painful, but what they allowed me to do was grow and mature, because I felt like a little boy. I was 28 years old and I felt like a little boy. The little boy, before he took his first drink, that's how I felt. I don't feel like that today. I feel like a man that I'm proud of today, a man that I can be called a father and a friend, an associate, a loved one, whatever it might be. You know, I'm a responsible person, and the 12 steps and recovery has given me that. You know, I went through the program that I believe fairly quickly, you know, very quickly. And there's all different views on how that works. And I'm not here to discuss that. You know, what works for you works for you. I'm just giving you my experience. And when I went through the program and I got to my step 8, which is where you make amends, yeah? And you're writing your step 8 list and you're going out and you're making amends. When I made amends to a couple of people that I hadn't seen for a period of time, I'm going to give you one example. There was a girl on my amends list, and I wrote it down, and I said to my sponsor, "Listen, I ain't seen her for 7, 8, 9 years. She moved away. You know, I was toxic in that relationship, very toxic in that relationship. I will own that to everybody watching this video. I was narcissistic. I was toxic." And I said, I'm willing to make amends to her, but I don't know how that's going to happen. And he said, "Just put her down, and what will be, will be." And that evening, I went to visit my father. Now, this is 6 months after my mother passed away. My mother passed away just as I stopped drinking, you know. And I said to him, how you doing? We had a cup of tea, da-da-da-da-da. And he said, you still ain't got a phone? I said, no, I still ain't got a phone. He said, you know what? I've got one of Mum's old phones here. You can guess what's coming next here, can't you? So I said, thanks, Dad. So I put the phone on. I took it home. And then I was sat there at home. I started flicking through it. What did I see? I see this girl's phone number. And I got this cold sweat come all over me. So I thought, whoa, you know what? 6 hours ago I said I'm willing. And now, right here, right now, I don't know if I feel willing. But I thought, well, maybe the number don't even work. Do you know what I mean? Maybe she's got a new number now. It's been a long time. I'm talking 5, 6, 7 years, maybe more. I don't know. So I thought, right, let's drop it a text. So I dropped a text message. I got a response back within 15 minutes. You know, we talk about a higher power. I needed her to respond to me, and she needed to hear my amends, because I went to see her about 2 days after this text message conversation that went on, and I sat with her for an hour and a half on a bench in a park, and I made my amends to her, wholeheartedly made my amends to her. I didn't make excuses, because it ain't about making excuses, but I made my amends. And she thanked me for coming to make the amends also. And she also told me some situations that happened within our relationship that I didn't even know, yeah? So the point of this story here is that reaffirmed my step one, my powerlessness over my addiction, my alcohol, my drugs, whatever it might be. It reaffirmed it, because she made me realise that I was probably worse than I thought I was. And that is the power of the program. The program, you know, it might give you pain, but I'm a firm believer that I will grow through the pain 100% every time. If I've got the right mindset, if I'm doing everything for the right reason, I will grow through it. And I did grow through it. And then I embarked on a journey of sobriety, which didn't last that long. I didn't use, but I got into toxic relationships. I forgot my program. That went on and off for a period of time. I dropped meetings out. I went back to them. I dropped them out. I started getting involved in earning money in a way that I shouldn't have earned money. Again, still not using, but my head has gone back to old behaviour. And that's my reality. That's in recovery. And I think, again, the point I'm trying to make is, if I'm not working my program, if I'm not using the tools that I've been given, I can slip back to where I've come from. And you know what? Thank God that I didn't pick up anything, any mind-altering substance. I didn't, and I'm blessed that I didn't. But I went through some fucking pain in that period of time. You know, I'm talking 15 years of my sobriety. 15 years. I'm not saying it was all bad, but it weren't all healthy either. My mental health wasn't great. Over the last, I'd say 2.5, 3 years, out of the 19 years that I'm sober, have been the best. The last 2 or 3 years have been the best. Why? I think it's simple. I decided to work on myself, relentlessly on a daily basis, working my program, in therapy, talking. You know, that is the key for me, opening up and being fucking honest. When you're doing things in recovery that you shouldn't be doing, it takes you away from your program, because you feel that guilt and shame again. So you don't want to talk to no one. You don't want them to know what you're doing or what you ain't doing. So what do? You back off. And there's your illness. Your illness wants you sick. Your illness don't want you talking. Your illness don't want your recovery friends around you. The illness wants to come in at every angle and attack you. That is an illness of alcoholism. That is an illness of addiction. That is cunning, baffling and powerful. It's a bastard illness. So where are we at today? Well, we're at Sober Stew Podcast. That's where we're at today. And in the last 12 months, I've launched a charity. We've Got Your Back, an addiction charity. locally to where I live to help people with addiction. And when I say help people with addiction, primarily we're helping homeless people with addiction, because what I have found is that there's certain levels of people in society, and when you're dropping down that pecking order, and I don't mean anything disrespectful here, but when you drop down that pecking order, there is fuck all help for you. And it's very hard to engage with some of these guys as well, because they've got no trust in anyone, because everyone's let them down. But that's where we're at. We're there for them, and if they want the help, our hand is out. That is a brief life story. I don't want to give you a big drink-a-log. I don't want to give you a big, I'm this super sober guy, because I'm not. I'm just everybody. I'm like anybody else out there. I try my best on a daily basis to keep away from alcohol and cocaine and pills, or whatever your drug might be, heroin or whatever it might be. For me, if it's a mind-altering drug, it's a fucking painful situation. So coming up over the following few weeks are some real life stories like mine with others, and I'll sit there and I'll interview them, and I want honesty like I've given you today. I want you to hear honesty, because in recovery ain't fucking perfect. Let's get it out there, yeah? I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I'm perfect, because I am not. And I wouldn't want to be either. I learn from my mistakes if I want to. So the guys we're having on, we're going to get raw, uncensored. None of this wishy-washy. We'll be in the studio. This is not my studio. This is my home. I've sat here today because it's a personal self-interview. But we'll be in a small studio, which is in my office. There's no big setup here for a podcast. There's no flashy cameras, no big lights, no, my microphone. It's not expensive. It's not about that. As long as you can hear us, as long as you can see us, and as long as the message of recovery coming from the guests is being absorbed, that's all that matters to us. Welcome, and I hope you stay tuned. And listen, I've heard many YouTubers say this, but click the subscribe button and tap the bell and all that jazz, whatever you have to do. But please do that, because if it means that we can help more other people who are suffering by getting this name out there, then that's a good thing, yeah? Stay lucky.